Just a quick video here showing how to properly install the Uni-Gen into a Sega Game Gear. As you can see, I had to drill a hole for the DB9 plug here. That's simple enough. Couple of screws. Make sure the wider end is facing down, because when you flip the system over the correct way, you want that to be that's the proper orientation anyway, to match like a Genesis. And then the important thing is to make sure that these wires match up to the connector here. The wire on the upper far left, on this pin farthest to the left here on the top, closest to us, goes all the way to the back here on the bottom. And then the pin on the bottom here, further to the left, goes all the way back on the top. So that's the orientation, and then you just wire them straight down, each wire down the line. There will be a resistor here for the potentiometer. Since you're not going to be using a potentiometer, you need something to tell it the speed of the auto fire. So I use a standard 51 kilo ohm resistor, which seems to give a pretty good auto fire rate. But you can change that for your own auto fire rate if you desire. Want a different pulse. The pins 6 and 9 on the bottom, the two outside pins on the bottom of the Uni-Gen, are the button pins, 1 and 2. So the one further down to the bottom goes here to the bottom of this capacitor, C28, at least on this model of Game Gear, because the top is going to be ground, and that's how you always know which side of the capacitor. That'll be button 1. And then the upper pin on the Uni-Gen on the other side here goes to the left of this capacitor, C29. The two pins in the middle on the bottom, because there's 4, are just plus and minus. You don't need to use those for plus and minus. You could actually use V in right here and ground, which is over here, these 2 test points. I just wire those straight to the bulk capacitor, because that's kind of the proper way to do it. That's where the analog power supply comes in. And last but not least, the up, down, left, and right. So the orientation is up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. And then for those, we look over here. Try to get a better light, actually. C24, the bottom of C24 is up. Down is C25, the top of C25. And then left and right, I always get confused. I believe left is going to be the bottom of C26, and then right is going to be the bottom of C27. C26, C27. Now, if you get those wrong, nothing's going to get damaged. It'll just be grounded. It won't function. So you just have to go back and make sure you got the right side of the correct side of the capacitor. Because the other side will just be ground, won't damage anything, just won't work if you don't solder to the correct pin, correct side of the capacitor. And that's pretty much it. You get your up, down, left, right. You can test it and make sure everything's good. If it's working, when you press the 1 button, these LEDs should, they should switch. One should turn on, the other should turn off. And then, of course, power is this LED right here, usually a green LED. And so you should always make sure when you power it up that is on. Also, a good rule of thumb, if you're installing this, to make sure that there's no shorts on the power rails before you fire it up. You can just test that from the capacitor here. And the standard resistance of a non-shorted Game Gear is around 300 ohms, which seems like a short, but it's not. So that's just a heads up. That's actually the resistance of this motherboard. It's nothing to do with anything I've connected to it. So if you had a smaller than like 280 to 300, something like that, if it's lower than that, you have a shorted Game Gear most likely. This already has the GG Powerboard Pro inside of it, as well as the McWill modification. So this is pretty decked out right now. Anyway, have fun installing your Uni-Gen board and play playing some classic Sega Game Gear. This is Segasonicfan signing out.